Hello everyone, good morning. This is class number 9 in translation 1, and we are going to do some examples today, to offer some examples in translation from English into Arabic. After we define translation and offer the types of translation and also the translation of idioms, the translation of phrasal verbs, the translation of modal verbs. Today I'm going to offer certain examples from English and Arabic. This is a book written by an American writer who is Miko Peled, and the title is General Sun. It's a very interesting book, and this book was translated into Arabic by me. I'll take certain excerpts from the book and comment on the strategies of translation first, and second, I'm going to offer you a translation that is rendered into Arabic from English, of course, by students, and we will comment on the mistakes committed by students so as the floor is open for you in terms of what is right, what is wrong, what are the strategies needed for you to overcome obstacles, to produce coherent, well-structured and intelligible text in translation. First, I will go for Miko Peled's The General Sun, and here is the translation as well. Now, you can see the strategy is offering you the work in parallel text. I'll take chapter 2 from the book, and it is entitled My Father Was Mati Peled. أبي كان ماتي Peled. I am my parents' fourth child, and by the time I was born in December of 1961, my father was 30 years old. He was 5'11" feet, or 5 feet and 11 inches, with broad shoulders, serious eyes, and ever since I knew him, silver hair combed back from a wild forehead. How is this rendered into Arabic? أنا رابع إخوتي، وعندما ولدت في ديسمبر 1961 كان والدي قد أكمل عامه 38. Where is the word أكمل in the English text? There is no أكمل. Why did we add it? We added it in order to produce the text. You cannot say وكان أبي 38. أكمل attends for the target language, which is Arabic in our case, and its ways of producing texts. This is what we mean by coherence. This is what we mean by translation by addition as a strategy. Okay? كان طوله 5 أقدام و11 إنش، لكن إحنا بنقولش 11 إنش، بنقول 5 أقدام بنحط. This is usual in other countries' cultures, that you tell about your daddy's height or how tall they are. وله منكبان واسعان. Could you say كتفان واسعان? Yes. This is the usefulness of synonymy. Okay? As long as you can use منكبان, that's fine instead of shoulders. وعينان جادتان, serious eyes. Could you say عينان حادتان? No. حادة has this vicious connotation that you don't want to appear in the translation. ومذ عرفته. Now look at the at the dash. The dash introduces a subordinate sentence or subordinate phrase or clause. Ever since I knew him. In Arabic, you can replace the dash with a comma. Could you replace it with dash in Arabic? Yes, but dash is not so common in Arabic. This is interesting thing about Arabic and English. Sometimes a structure or a technique or a strategy or a punctuation mark is so frequently used in a language and it is not the case in the other language. So sometimes you can replace a punctuation with another. Okay? ومذ عرفته كان شعره دائما مسرحا إلى الوراء. Could you say ممشطا إلى الوراء? Yeah. Synonymy helps you choose ممشطا, مسرحا. ممشطا is a little bit colloquial, is a little يمشط شعره. Okay? We have مسرحا. This is a written form of ممشطا. Okay? إلى الوراء تتقدمه جبهة عريضة. Okay? Come back from a wide forehead. If you want to translate from a wide forehead من جبهة عريضة, this doesn't work. This is why you translate from, okay? From, you don't translate it in fact. You translated it by deletion. You deleted it in Arabic. Why? Because it doesn't fit in the Arabic structure. تتقدمه جبهة عريضة is more acceptable in Arabic. Okay? Here you depart away from literal translation. As an adult, my father made his mark on Israeli history. Could you say وباعتباره بالغا, my father made جعل بصمة أثر? Literal translation doesn't work here. Okay? And you have to make a structural shift that is manifested in starting the Arabic sentence with the verb. Okay? ترك. لقد ترك أبي بصمته. You could see that made is translated into ترك here. لقد ترك أبي بصمته في التاريخ الإسرائيلي. Could you say على التاريخ الإسرائيلي? Yes and no. Now here in Arabic there is a rule saying that prepositions are interchangeable. This means that في can be replaced by على. Okay? And when it is, for example, in the Quran, قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا. Usually people walk on earth, not in earth. Right? الناس بتمشي على الأرض وليس على لكن قوله تعالى فيه يستدل منه على أنه فيه تعمل عمل على, يعني حروف الجر يعمل بعضها عمل بعض. بس برضو في التاريخ الإسرائيلي هنا stylistically speaking فيه ألطف. أوكي؟ لقد ترك أبي بصمته في التاريخ الإسرائيلي. أولا كضابط شاب. notice أولا كضابط شاب. could you say كضابط صغير young young officer. Notice also the word adult is omitted in Arabic. Okay? كضابط شاب ميز نفسه عن غيره في المعارك. First as a young officer who distinguished himself in battle as a fearless, committed, and level-headed leader of men during Israel's War of Independence. ميز نفسه عن غيره في المعارك. You could see battle is translated into plural, and this happens in Arabic. Plural word in English can be translated into a singular word in Arabic, and a singular word in English can be translated into a plural word in Arabic. And this is an example. ميز نفسه عن غيره في المعارك عندما كان قائدا خلال حرب الاستقلال. Why do you think حرب الاستقلال is placed between quotes, or as people would say, scare quotes? Think of that, okay? فلم يكن يخشى شيئا. You can see the lexical shift here. Fearless became يخشى, okay? Noun, fearless, okay? يخشى شيئا وكان ملتزما رابط الجأش. وعندما بدأ حياته العملية career. By the way, career is one of these words that cause problems when translated into Arabic. Okay? هل هي حياته العملية؟ هل هي سيرته العملية؟ هل هي سيرته الذاتية؟ Now it depends on the context, and you have to take the decision in light of the context in which you are working. Okay? كضابط كرس نفسه لبناء قوة حسنة التنظيم. As a career officer who dedicated himself. Could you translate dedicated into نذر نفسه, كرس نفسه? Both are fine. Excuse me. Both are fine, and both are synonyms from which you choose which you believe to be more appropriate in the context. Okay? حسنة التنظيم is a translation of well organized. To building a well-organized fighting force for the young state of Israel. Young state, إسرائيل الناشئة, دولة إسرائيل الناشئة. Could you say young الفتية? You can say الفتية too. Okay? ولكن Then, as a career officer who dedicated himself to building a well-organized fighting force for the young state of Israel, but probably most notably as one of the generals of the Six-Day War of 1967, when the Israeli army captured the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. ولكن أكثر شهرته تعود في الأغلب إلى كونه أحد جنرالات حرب الأيام الستة عام 1967 عندما احتل الجيش الإسرائيلي الضفة الغربية وقطاع غزة ومرتفعات الجولان وشبه جزيرة سيناء. The difference here is in captured rendered into احتل. Okay? Captured is translated into احتل الجيش الإسرائيلي. Because capture قبض أمسك. Capture قبض أمسك, and there is a consensus that the act that happened during these times is called احتلال. You are safe to say احتلال without defecting the meaning. Yes, Israel uses the word capture for its own discourse, and it has a word in Arabic الأراضي المحتجزة أو yeah. But احتل is fine too. My father later became a professor of Arabic language and literature, a groundbreaking member of the Israeli parliament, and a peace activist decades ahead of his time. Later is translated into فيما بعد. Could you say وأصبح والدي لاحقا أستاذا للغة العربية والأدب العربي? Yeah, you can say. Could you say أضحى والدي? Not really, no. كان وأخواته مظلومات في الترجمة, and we will come to this in translation too, but you need to be careful when you use them. We will come to this and talk about it in details in translation too إن شاء الله. فيما بعد أصبح والدي أستاذا للغة العربية والأدب العربي. Could you say أستاذا للغة والأدب العربيين? Yeah, but again that would be more transparent. Okay. كما أصبح عضوا فاعلا في البرلمان. Groundbreaking. Groundbreaking is translated into فاعلا. After all these years of experience, فاعلا to me is not a proper word for groundbreaking. We have to think of a more appropriate word for groundbreaking. Can we make shift here from my father later became a professor of Arabic and literature, a groundbreaking member, مثلا وكما أصبح عضوا في البرلمان كيف بدنا نقول groundbreaking? I don't know. Yeah. فاعلا suffices for the time being. And a peace activist وناشط سلام ahead of his time, decades ahead of his time, سابقا لعصره بعقود. This is an easy thing. By the way, much of your translation experience can be based on knowing cliches or fixed expressions and idiomatic expressions where once you know the expression, then it is easy for you to deal with it afterwards. زي سابقا لعصره, ahead of his time. Ahead of his time is سابقا لعصره. This is fixed, okay? But whatever that Mati Paled wore, general, scholar, father, he had a cool and rational way. But whatever, كيف بدنا نترجم but whatever. But whatever. ولكن بغض النظر. Now you see how whatever is translated into بغض النظر عن القبعة التي ارتداها ماتي بيلد. Okay? سواء كان جنرال أو باحث أو أب فقد كان أسلوبه معتدلا وعقلانيا. Now I would like to offer the final translation which was published of the same text. Okay? And I want you to focus where changes happened. Okay? From the book. This is a version and this is the last version after editing. أنا رابع أخوتي وعندما ولدت في ديسمبر 1991 كان والدي قد أكمل عامه 38. كان طوله 5.11 قدم وله منكبان عريضان وعينان جادتان نقطة. ومذ عرفته كان شعره دائما مسرحا إلى الوراء تتقدمه جبهة عريضة. لقد ترك أبي بصمته في التاريخ الإسرائيلي أولا كضابط شاب ميز نفسه عن غيره في المعارك عندما كان قائدا خلال حرب الاستقلال فلم يكن يخشى شيئا وكان ملتزما ورابط الجيش. وعندما بدأ حياته العملية كضابط كرس نفسه لبناء قوة حسنة التنظيم تقاتل من أجل دولة إسرائيل الناشئة، ولكن شهرته في الأغلب تعود إلى كونه أحد جنرالات حرب الأيام الستة عام 1967 عندما احتل الجيش الإسرائيلي الضفة الغربية وقطاع غزة ومرتفعات الجولان وشبه جزيرة سيناء. فيما بعد أصبح والدي أستاذا للغة العربية والأدب العربي، كما أصبح عضوا فاعلا في البرلمان الإسرائيلي وناشط سلام سابقا لعصره بعقود. ولكن بغض النظر عن القبعة التي اعتمرها ماتي بيلد، سواء أكان جنرالا أو باحثا أو أبا، فقد كان أسلوبه معتدلا وعقلانيا. Now you can see one of the things that are put differently in the editing بغض النظر عن القبعة التي ارتداها. In the editing we used اعتمرها. Okay? سواء كان هنا سواء كان, and this is a rule in Arabic, okay, where you say سواء كان جنرالا أو once you say أكان جنرالا you have to say باحثا أبا، فقد كان أسلوبه معتدلا وعقلانيا. Okay? Let us go for the third paragraph. Now, Miko turns to talk about himself. I was only 14 or 15 when he caught me smoking. I was outside by the car lighting up, certain that no one would see me, when suddenly I noticed him walking up the hill. كان عمري 14 أو 15 سنة عندما أو 14 أو 15 عندما رآني أدخن. Okay? Notice that when he caught me, okay? Could you say قبض علي وأنا أدخن as an equivalent for caught قبض? Yeah, you cannot say caught because yeah, he's a father and dad relationship. Okay, in Arabic quote works, but in English, sorry, in English quote works, but in Arabic it might be heavy. Okay. كنت خارج البيت بجانب السيارة وبدأت أدخن وبدأت التدخين مطمئنا إلى أن أحدا لن يراني عندما رأيته فجأة يصعد التل. He was deep in thought. كان مستغرقا في التفكير كالعادة. وكانت نظراته إلى الأرض and his gaze was down. Okay? Could you say وكان يحملق إلى أسفل? You could say that, okay? As gaze, okay? I had no idea how he would react. لم يكن لدي أدنى فكرة عن ردة فعله. ولكنني افترضت أنني سأكون في وضع صعب. But I assumed I was going to be in trouble. Yeah. He was already quite close before he looked up and اقترب مني قبل أن ينتبه ويعرفني. Okay? He was already quite close. Quite close. Already there is a huge change here in Arabic. Okay? He was already quite close before he looked up. Okay? اقترب مني قبل أن ينتبه ويعرفني. كانت رائحة دخان السجائر تفوح في كل مكان وكانت السيجارة في يدي. The unmistakable odor of cigarette. Unmistakable is not translated here as you can see. رائحة السجائر التي لا تخطئها العين لا يخطئها الشم تفوح في كل مكان. Of cigarette smoke was all around and the cigarette was in my hand. تفوح was all around. تفوح في كل مكان. Although تفوح is for good odor, but you can use it for bad odor as well. Smoking, okay? You smoke تساءل وقد عراه شيء من الدهشة with mild surprise. قد تراه شيء من الدهشة is fine. قد عرته الدهشة that's fine. تدخن. وأضاف أليس من الضار لرياضي مثلك أن يفسد رئتيه. Is not it a waste for an athlete like you to ruin your lungs? Look at the word الضار as a translation of waste. I am giving a signal to finish here. We will continue in next classes and we will focus on another thing. But for now, I'll leave you and upload this for you on the Moodle on the basis that you are going to translate the rest of the text here. Translate it for yourself and later on I'll upload my translation for you to compare your translation with mine. Okay? Thank you for now. Bye bye.